Life's good when you're a ninja block.
A year ago today, the Jimquisition threw off the shackles of traditional games media to become an independent venture. Oh yes, today is our Jimdependence Day. A day of celebration, a day to take off work. If you've got work today, even though it's a Saturday, tell your boss, hey, Jim Sterling said I can take the fucking day off work, and take the day off work in reverence and worship to yours truly. It is thanks to you, my friends, that I am the man, the being, the myth that I am today. Oh yes. Through Patreon, I have become more powerful than ever. Through independence, I have become more independent. To celebrate, here is a bonus episode of the Jimquisition. I hope you enjoy it. It's a revisiting of a subject, actually, one of the very earliest episodes I ever did for The Escapist. It was an episode I did to mark the occasion, the officiation that this show had become a hit after it was looking so set to become a flop. So yeah, I'm excited to bring it to you. It was a subject that was near and dear to my heart back in the day, and it's near and dear to my heart to this very day. Enjoy. My love for Dynasty Warriors is known far and wide, or at least it bloody well ought to be. The notorious hack and slash series has its fair share of detractors, that much is true. So many and so virulently, in fact, that critics of my work just love to bring it up when trying to invalidate my opinion. Oh yeah, they'll say when I review a game they're hyped for negatively, well, you like Dynasty Warriors, so who cares what you think? They'll say this during a 5,000-word novella of a comment proving just how little they care about what I think.
Here's a TV that looks like an apple.
Dynasty Warriors is a series that I've loved ever since Dynasty Warriors 3, the first game to catch my attention and a release for which I've the fondest regard. A game that actually got me back into video games after a few years hiatus. So here I am to explain exactly why this series is so fucking brilliant, and why anybody who doesn't like it is factually wrong and eats poo. Well, that bit's not true. You're entitled to your opinion. But you might eat poo. I mean, anyone might eat poo. It depends what they're into. I'm not into eating poo, but if you want to eat poo, I guess. It's not advised. It's not actually nourishment. So just be careful about that.
Feel the power of my magic!
For me, Dynasty Warriors is the evolution of the beat-em-up. In a world sadly bereft of follow-ups to Streets of Rage and Final Fight, what the hell's up with that? Dynasty Warriors has been there to fill my need for some fuss-free, chill-out violence. Perhaps the most pertinent comparison would be Golden Axe, one of the granddaddies of the hack-and-slash idea, and a game for which I see Dynasty Warriors as the spiritual successor. Now, I've had people disgusted at me for making that comparison, for daring to liken a classic such as Golden Axe to Dynasty Warriors, but I think that exposes the hypocrisy of the common cultural attitudes we have towards these two games. We have Golden Axe, a set of titles in which you press only a very limited few buttons to attack enemies with little strategy, and it's hailed as a classic. Meanwhile, Dynasty Warriors is largely derided as mindless one-button stupidity, despite being far more evolved than Golden Axe ever was, with way more commands, tactical nuance, and a whole fucking block button.
Report from the spies! The main shoe force has definitely camped!
So, was the enemy camp pretty?
What? It was normal, I suppose!
That's another thing people just don't get about the series. You don't just press one button. For a start, attacks are chained together using a combination of light and strong attacks, a combat fundamental that's been seen in dozens of critically acclaimed games, including God of War. And this is before I start talking about base captures, Musou attacks, counter-attacks, the X attacks of recent games, a whole bunch of added stuff that you wouldn't even understand if I went into talking about them if you've never played the games. Combat is not the most complex on the market, market. No, that's true. But it streamlined the idea of combos in a way I always found engaging, with usually over 60 characters that each level up and learn totally different attacks and special abilities. That's at least over 60 characters that each feel different to play, despite fundamentally controlling the same. That's actually pretty impressive.
Life's good when you're a ninja block.
Some people shit on the game for having a stupid enemy AI, but let me tell you this. Have you played a game that surrounds you with hundreds of enemies and makes all those enemies aggressive? It fucking sucks. I remember Spartan Total Warrior, Sega's attempt to copy the formula. They made their enemies all aggressive. It was shit. The game overall was shit and has one of the worst escort missions in history, but it was all shit. This is before we talk about how the various Warriors spin-off games are tangibly different as well. If you actually play Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, you'd be surprised at how different the two games are, with the latter being a faster-paced affair with on-the-fly objectives and a totally different way of handling combo strings. This is to say nothing of Hyrule Warriors, with its downright bizarre playable characters and base-capturing tactical slants, or Dragon Quest Heroes with an almost tower defense-like blend of hack and slash and RPG. Each Warriors game does try to feel different, and every main entry in the series does unique things that alter the formula, despite reviews saying they're all the same game every time they release. It's kind of like sports games. It's easy to sit back and say they're all the same if you're not into them, but anybody who cares about them can tell you all the changes and overhauls every release has had.
Here's a TV that looks like a
Ninja block.
I focus on the main releases of Dynasty Warriors mostly to avoid burnout because, let's face it, Tecmo Koei isn't blameless here. Now, I'm a fan of the series, not what you'd call a typical fanboy, and as such, I know it's fully deserving of some of its criticism. Koei releases far too many other bloody things, and this cycle of releasing Extreme Legends and Empires versions of every new iteration is really tiresome. Not to mention lazy with the amount of assets they recycle. Koei's been lazy when it comes to localization lately, adding no English translation for voiceovers and struggling to come up with meaningful content for what once were decent expansions. But even so, when it comes to series exploitation, Dynasty Warriors is actually nowhere near as shameless as annualized games like Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty, and if you only pay heed to the main entries, it's actually a pretty good few years between games, not quite the deluge some think. The amount of DLC they pump out is ridiculous, but hey, they've had currencies and building modes in the game just ripe for microtransaction exploitation, and at least they've resisted the urge to go as far as to put fee-to-pay elements in their games. I mean, it's pretty sad we have to find that laudable these days, but, you know, that's where we are. At any rate, there are lots of criticisms I can go into with the series, some large, some minor, but none of them are the same as those critics who play each game for 5 minutes and go, "It's more of the same," before banging out their half-baked opinions.
Whoa, you challenge me with trickery? I don't believe in magic. Onward!
And let's of course look at the real reason to love Dynasty Warriors, the sheer, unabashed campness. Every single character is dressed fabulously. In fact, part of my love for each new main staple release is seeing just how extravagant and fancy the clothes have gotten this time around. The cheesy hair metal that plays during each stage is fucking gorgeous in its shamelessness. And then there's Zhang He, basically Vega, but somehow even more delicious. God, I love Zhang He. He's my main, BT dubs.
Now, everyone, show your joy, not with your blade, but with a dance!
For me, Dynasty Warriors is the ultimate stress ball. It's the perfect way to unwind, just throw one in the console and attack hundreds upon hundreds of enemies in a simple, but more nuanced than you'd believe, way. I can tune out a little and just have fun hitting things in a game that has a rhythmic flow to it, a game that is a 3D continuation of Golden Axe's legacy, whether you like it or not. A true hack and slash brawler game in a world that largely left the genre behind, with only a few notable exceptions. It's fine, of course, if you don't like the games. Many people don't, and if I got bent out of shape every time a DW game was reviewed poorly or shat upon, I'd be dead from stress already. But the people who attack the series thinking I'll flip out at them, or try and invalidate my opinions on other games based on my love of this series, well, those people do eat poo. They eat it with a knife and fork, as if to try and lend some dignity to their fecal consumption. As do those who dismiss the series based on no actual knowledge of it. It's a very flawed series that Koei needs to reinvigorate properly, but it's you know, it's my FIFA or PES. It's my thing. And that's okay. Because it's a pretty great thing, and if you don't like it, you can fuck up. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. Don't eat poo.
Here's a TV that looks like an apple.
Before we wrap up, it is time to engage in sincerity mode and give out some heartfelt thanks. So I would just like to say thank you to me for having the generosity and the kindness to bring you so much amazing content day in, day out, giving you a weekly show that is one of the most insightful and incredible shows on the internet. And of course, it would be wrong not to include the Patreon contributors in on this. So to you people, please, please thank me for giving you the ability to fund such an incredible project. Thank you for that, is what you should say to me. Thanking me for giving you the power to make dreams come true, your dreams come true. The dream of seeing me every Monday morning. The dream of seeing me in wonderful reviews. The dream of seeing me succeed and get better and bigger. Not physically bigger, I mean metaphorically, okay? The dream that is Jim fucking Sterling's son. Thank me! And thank God for me! There are no strings on me. So seriously, thank you. Hi guys. So these are some new pogs that I ordered. These are Skeleton Warriors pogs. Yeah, they're official. That's Oracula. It's blurry when it's up close. There you can see him. He's my favourite. I didn't know these existed, Skeleton Warriors pogs. But I like Skeleton Warriors. It was a show I watched when I was a younger child. And I like pogs. Not sexually. I've never fucked a pog. But I thought you might like to see my collection. My pogs. There's a lot of them. Just want to show you a little bit about who I am and what makes me me. I don't have sex with the pogs. I don't do anything untoward with them. Just in case you were wondering, pugs are important. You should think about them always. Pugs. World Pug Federation. Pugs.